All right. I also have QuickBooks up so then you guys can be able to navigate and be able to answer the question. So let's go ahead and go through this again. So just as a reminder, the certification exam is going to be something that you guys are going to have to schedule on your own. Now, given, depending on your counselor, you may have to test right away, or for those who are going into the accounting program, you guys actually get an extension of 4 extra months. So you guys test after your accounting class if that is something that you are wanting to do. Because I've had a lot of students who try to do the the accounting class and try to keep up with that class and also try to study for the certification exam. And it's not very easy, okay? For those who are done with the program, what's going to happen is that after the class, you guys are going to be receiving a link, not this week, but the week after. I still have to go request it for you guys, which should take no later than a week for you guys to get your practice exam or your practice test. Those cannot be distributed until you complete the course. So that means once I've graded and sent you guys your exams and stuff, that is when I can go ahead and send your practice exam. Now, there is a criteria or there is a barrier before you guys can even schedule for your practice exam. So what's going to happen is you guys are going to be taking your practice exams, and I will be giving you a downloadable link that allows you to have access to Certiport online. Now, how you guys are going to be registering your account is through the Google email that you are using for this class, okay? Or when I send you the link, you guys are going to be registering it through whatever email that you guys are doing. Because I can't remember if the person that I'm purchasing it from is going to be actually entering your email. So possibility that I believe once you get the link, you're supposed to register yourself, and all your answers or all your scores, your test scores that you get on the practice exam will be in the email that you sign up with Certiport. So our only criteria is you need to pass the practice exams at least twice with a 90% before we can even schedule you a practice exam. So the person that you will be scheduling with will be either or Miss Casey Steinmuller, okay, which is our she's our accountant / registrar. She's the one that's purchasing these practice exams, and she's going to be the one that's going to be purchasing the voucher for you to take your exam. Second person as well is going to be Eleanor. She's the one that is actually at the front desk that actually takes care of the certification practice exam. Not certification, practice exam. She does the actual certification exam. So you can also schedule with her as well as purchase your voucher with her. Now, again, you need to meet these conditions before you can even schedule the exam. Okay, now again, my high recommendation is for those who are unfamiliar with QuickBooks. I would recommend you to take it again or to study it on your own using the videos that I provided here on the Google Classroom. It is definitely a must, especially, we get 2 weeks of vacation. I don't want you to forget all this material. And on top of that, it is a lot of material. So I want you to keep brushing up on your skills and don't forget about them. Okay, but for those who are more experienced or you just, your memory is your game, I would recommend you to try to at least score 90% at least 5 or 6 times before you go ahead and schedule for the certification exam. So if you go ahead and do it, the passing rate is unfortunately about 40 to 50% for the first time takers. Obviously, the second time is a lot higher rate. It's anywhere from 80 to 90% pass rate for the second time. Now, don't worry about the stress of listening to these statistics. It really truly is coming down to how well you study, how well you prep for the exam, and how well you practice the exam. Okay, so again, the statistics isn't based off of just taking the exam without prior exposure. Okay, so you want to make sure that you want to prepare yourself as much as you can. And like I said, my recommendation is try to pass the practice exams at least twice, or at least 5 or 6 times, 90%. That's my recommendation. School, the only requirement is pass 90% twice. Now, for those who do take that exam and you do fail it, Cert Report only allows you 30 days to within the first time you took it to take the second exam. So think about before taking your first attempt, are you for sure? Are you ready for this? And if you fail it, will you be able to take it again in the next 30 days? Okay? So as far as my best knowledge, the school has not closed down for any reason, and we do operating hours during Christmas vacation, or in our case, winter break vacation. So that means the school is still open for those kind of hours, except we are taking, obviously, Christmas and New Year's as a holiday. So make sure that you guys are aware of your schedule, but also aware of the school schedule as well. So with that being said, that is pretty much everything, okay? So all these practice exams that I posted on here, the practice exams is going to be more geared towards what is most likely to be on the exam. My personal exam is only to test you for reading, okay? So a lot of the times, reading is probably 40% of the exam. Reason being is you need to be able to answer a question, and most of the answers come from the reading. So this is me testing you. Make sure that you read the book. All right, Mr. Sanchez tells his story that when he failed it the first time, he read the book twice and then retook it literally 3 days later, and he passed. All because he read the book twice. Okay, so I want you guys to take it easy. Don't rush into it, and practice, and read. That's the purpose of me testing you on the reading. So it kind of engages you, and it kind of forces you to actually read the book and go into detail. Okay. Other than that, so after the final exam is over, Saturday, I will be posting the answers with the actual location that has the answers. And for my newer class, I won't see you until January 4th, Monday at 8 a.m. Okay? And then for those who are going to go with me to the QuickBooks, I won't see you until January 4th at 1 p.m. Okay? Other than that, if you have any questions, whether it's during the exam or after the exam, you have my personal phone numbers. Text me. But don't text me on Christmas or New Year's, okay? You can text me anytime after, but remember my window is from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. No later, no beyond that. And unless you're texting me a friendly message saying Happy Christmas, well, okay, cool, okay? I'll text you back. But again, my personal phone is for you guys to utilize as a student-to-teacher relationship, okay? So other than that, let's go ahead and get started. So certification exam. All right. So this is where we left off. So QuickBooks set up 6% of your application, or I'm sorry, approximate 3 questions. So again, your exam is anywhere from 50 questions. A third of the exam is navigation. 2/3 is multiple choice, just like this. Okay, just like the practice exams. Okay, so here's the first highlighted question: is how to keep the files and preferences from all old files while removing old transactions, okay? And this is a chapter 13 thing. So if you guys really remember. So this one is how to basically delete all your old transactions, but keep the lists, preferences, and yeah. So you guys, do you remember this one? This was recently yesterday. We talked about this. It is part of the closing process and what you can do. Okay.
I remember doing something with updating or doing backup.
You do need to do a backup. That is definitely a step you have to do before removing all old transactions, but keeping the lists and preferences. Okay. All right. If you want a hint, page 407. Actually, well, this one's on page 408 at the very top. It is step number 10. Okay. If you're a visual person, do you guys kind of remember what kind of general area we need to be in?
We have to be and memorize transaction list.
Okay, so we're not memorizing the transactions. What we're doing is we're getting rid of every single transaction. So making a blank slate in your QuickBooks. However, you're keeping all your lists so that all their vendors, all your preferences are going to be saved as well.
Is the cleanup data file utility?
Correct. The cleanup data file utilities. Yes. So this is exactly what this is. Clean up data file utilities. All right. This is a very important step because, again, this is how you reuse your existing workbook instead of cluttering it with every single transaction. Imagine this: if you are doing books for the whole year, you don't want to have all your transactions from January still existing in your books, because that means you got to buy the bigger the ones that can hold the most names, which is going to be obviously the enterprise version. You're going to be wasting more money, okay, because you're going to be holding the file. It's going to be super, super heavy. And on top of that, that's probably the most dangerous thing you can do, is having the file be super heavy, holding all these details, and it's going to be a lot harder to work, and you're more likely to crash your program, given on the circumstances of which computer you're going to be utilizing. So this is one way that you can do. It is step number 10 of the closing process in QuickBooks. So again, you're going to go to File. Okay, you're going to go to Utilities. All right, and then you're going to go ahead and click the Clean Up Utilities, and you're going to go and to the condense your where is it? Condense. Okay, at the very bottom, condense data. All right, condensed data is what you're going to be utilizing to shrink all your data. So when you press this, right, you're going to save your data in a folder. Okay, and then once you've done that, what's going to happen is it's going to delete all of your old transactions, but it's going to allow you to keep your list of people and your preferences. So especially especially when you are using QuickBooks, you don't want to generally start all over from scratch, entering all your list of people all over again, creating a brand new working data file. No, 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 no. QuickBooks allows you to make things a lot easier. Once you close out your books, it allows you to delete all your transactions. So the only time that you would be able to pull up these old transactions if you open a backup file. So they do say general rule of thumb is step number 8 is to back up your file. Step number 9 is to close out your books. And then step 10 is to delete all your old transactions. Excuse me. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click cancel. So yes, so make sure you know that one. That's a good one to know. It's very important, especially when you're utilizing QuickBooks. So again, how we did that was we went to the file on the menu bar. We went to utilities. And we went to condense data. All right. So let me see if we move along down here. The next section actually should be, so we already did the sales. Okay, so here you go. We're going to be looking at inventory. So this is all chapter 8 right here. Okay, so let me go ahead and highlight this. And all right, so chapter 8, inventory, purchases. So this is, like I said, this is probably one of the most important chapters because especially if you're going to be selling your products, you need to first establish where in the world did you purchase them from. So first question is, who should be listed in your vendor's center? Yes, your suppliers. Who else? People who do service for you. What do you call those people? Or people who provide a service for you but aren't your employees.
Independent contractors?
Independent contractors. Yes, your 1099 people belong here too. So your 1099 or independent contractors. Okay? Who work, who provide. Okay? Okay. Don't forget any subcontractors that need to have you, subcontractors, anything that needs to build your area. Don't forget your people who pay, who, you know, you rent from, your insurance company. So renters, insurance, okay? Anyone that provides a service to you, okay? So usually those would be all. So basically, if it's anybody that does something for you. Okay, pretty straightforward. Well, your customers is something that you provide for them, and your employees work for you. Straightforward. Okay. Next one says how to navigate and use the vendor center. Let's talk about how to get there. So ways to get to the vendor center. How do you get to the vendor center? Menu bar. How? Vendors. Vendor center. Good. Home page. Mm-hmm. Icon bar. Yes, you have the vendor centers here. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So this is the vendor center. So let me go ahead and type those in there, that those are the ways to get to the vendor center. So again, your typical three main navigating platforms are going to be your home page, your menu bar, and your icon bar. Okay. So now the next one is how to navigate. Of course, it's pretty straightforward. You have your vendor center. You have the list of all your vendors with all their associated balances with you, or the balances that you have with them. Every person that you select will have a list of transactions that occurred. And of course, you have your managed transactions here for that's geared towards each person, as well as your right click is going to be for each person, where your new transactions can be anybody. Okay. If you need to add a vendor, you can add them either at one time, or you could do a list and add them simultaneously. Right? Other transactions that you can do, you can view your bill tracker here too. So cool. Okay, so that's all you need to know when it comes to navigating your vendors. Okay. So the different workflows for making purchases. Okay. So let's look at the homepage, because a homepage is the most direct workflow that you can do for a purchase order. So the first thing you need to do is you're going to make a purchase order. Then it's going to be, you're going to receive your items with the bill or without a bill. And then if you get with the bill, then it's going to automatically become a bill. Okay, so it's going to go straight here, and then it goes straight over here. If it's without a bill, you're going to get your inventory against the bill, and then it comes to pay the bill. Okay? So let's look at what this says here. So first off, entering and paying bills. So let's understand that one. So what does entering a bill do? What does entering a bill do?
Itemize the items that were ordered, or you are selling it to the customer so that you have
Not selling.
not selling. Okay, yeah, vendor. Itemize the corresponding prices and how many the quantity of an item.
Yes. Okay. But remember, this is just a general terminology here. Let me see. You can, okay, I see. Okay. Yes, so entering a bill, okay, allows you to create an accounts payable because it doesn't ask you to pay right then and there. So, good. Yes. So what a bill does, it lists out the items that you've ordered. Okay, whether it's a good or service. Okay. Okay, and it creates an accounts payable. So therefore, it's not asking you to pay now, it's asking you to pay later. All right, what about writing a check? What does that do? In terms of paying,
Paying the bill.
yes. So writing a check pays the bill. Now okay, when you write a check to pay off a bill, you can't use that. So this is for paying the we call them cash expenses. Okay? Because remember, if you are using a check, you cannot use it to pay towards a bill. And Lynette, you are correct on that part. You must use bill payment or to pay the pay bill option. So in this case, it just pays the cash expenses. So anything that needs to be paid for right then and there. How can you write a check?
Pay to the order of amount, and below the check there is a memo that you can indicate what the purpose of that payment.
Okay. All right. See, that's a misinterpretation of right there of the question. My question is how to navigate. Let's navigate. Tell me, how do I write a check?
Menu bar, and then you go to banking.
Menu bar, banking. Good. Menu bar, banking. Right there. Write a check. First one.
Check.
Yeah, right check.
And then home page, write a check.
Right check.
Yes. So, no worries. Home page, write a check. And then you said menu bar, banking. Write a check. Okay. How else can you input this check without having to go through the write a checks window? There's one more that you can do.
Chart account,
Chart of accounts. What do you do in the chart of accounts?
you're doing right click
To
and
get chart
you
of,
write check.
which one? I have to go to checking, right?
Yes,
Okay, good. That's a good one. So that means when I go here, right, it gives me the check option. Okay. Oh, okay, so that's another way. What else? You're very close when you come to the chart of accounts. What do you do? No. We're writing a check.
activities,
Where?
you write check. And the chart account, when you're going activities, write checks.
Okay. All right.
Right
Okay.
mouse click,
Say that again.
right mouse click. Once you get the chart of accounts, right mouse click, and then you can find write checks.
Okay, that was the first one that she told me to do.
Okay, well, clearly I wasn't paying attention.
So so I'll give you a hint. We're going to be entering it using a register. So how do I get to my banking register? Okay, you want to go on the home page? You can enter in the check directly into the checking register. Do you guys remember that? We wrote a check and we entered it right in here. We didn't have to go through the write a checks window. But good. Good. I like that. So chart of accounts, right click, or activities tab. And then you have your enter check directly into the checking register.
Question on that.
Yes.
Accounting register. If you input that information, does that automatically write? Does that automatically issue a check, or
Mm-hmm.
I?
Okay, so this is definitely going to be something from chapter 4. So this is like 3 weeks ago. If you remember, we entered in right here. See, just right here, by just clicking on the transaction, it already wrote me out a check. Check number 303. Now, I believe this one's the payee, right? So again, I think I did. I don't know. I'm gonna just do Orlando Properties, just for fun. Actually, let's do A Supply. Okay, so here you go. It automatically put rent. Let's say we bought. No, actually, I like that better. Let's do Orlando Properties. Okay, boom, there you go. And then it gives us the account number. Okay, and how much we paid for. Let's say 250, 2,500. Okay, for rent. Once I've done that and I press my enter, boom, there's my check. It already wrote it for me. And if I need to edit that check, I just double click on it. Okay. I double click. Ooh, I gotta go find that check now. Okay, so here, I double click on it. Now it automatically created the check for me.
I see. All the while, I thought it will just automatically mail the check to the recipient.
Oh, no. All checks, there's one thing that you need to do before doing this. So this is just preparing, and I press at the top that I have print for later. So the number one thing that you need to have too is before sending these all out is you need your signature. That is number one. You need your signature. So if you print it out now, then you're subject to actually have to manually sign every single check. But in QuickBooks, if you do the print later, it assigns the number and it allows you to actually sign or do a copy of a signature on there. Okay, so if I print this out right now, which I did, selected print now, it's going to print and I have to manually sign it. Okay, so yes, you could enter it in through the check register. Okay. Well, how do you use a credit card to pay your bills? Home page.
Enter credit card charges.
Mm-hmm. And where else?
Menu bar, banking.
Yes, menu bar and banking. Oh, wrong one. Banking, menu bar, enter in credit card charges. Okay. Now, there's one thing that I didn't really talk about the most often is going to be the bill tracker. Again, this is new to 2018, new to the 2018, and actually, you actually have a few options here. You can either enter a credit card charge. You can do a bill purchase order, and yeah. And then here, you can also right click this and be able to pay it. Okay? So that's another option too. When you're entering a credit card transaction, you can do it through the bill checker. So again, use a credit card transaction. You have the home page. You have the menu bar, banking, and you have bill tracker. Good. What about using a debit card? Do you guys remember this one? How do you use a debit card? Okay. I'll give you a hint.
Similar to the credit card.
No, it's not similar to the credit card. Absolutely not. Okay. We're going to go in the home page. Now, a debit card transaction, okay? What is the most similar to a debit credit card transaction? How do you take away from your bank?
It's automatically taken out. A debit card is automatically taken out from your checking account.
Correct. But what is also similar way of taking money out of your checking account? How do you take money out of your checking account?
Instead of writing a check or cash withdrawal.
Okay, so you hit on the part. You actually are going to write a check. But instead of assigning a number, what you're going to do is you're going to place in debit card in here. You're going to put debit. Okay? So that means you're going to record a debit card transaction. Okay? All right, and you're going to write out what your expenses are for, and when you press the record button, it will record that you bought these on a debit card. Okay, that's all it is. Straightforward. So you can use write a checks window, but instead of a check number, type in debit. Okay, so that means if you can enter it through a write a checks window, you can also use the checking register. Okay, pretty straightforward. It's similar to a check, except this one's actually virtual, so it will automatically take it out of your banking account. Okay. How to record the transactions in the purchase workflow. So, again, can you describe to me the workflow of doing purchase orders? Hold on. Home page. Okay.
Proceed inventory. And then enter bills against inventory.
No. So purchase orders on homepage. Good. Not company. Vendors on the menu bar. Okay. Create purchase orders. What else?
Icon bar vendors.
Icon bar to the vendor center. Okay. So what if I am in my vendor center? Highlight the customer. Highlight the vendor, not a customer. Yes, you can. Manage transactions, purchase order. What else? There's two more.
New transaction and
New.
right click the vendor.
Correct. Right click and new transactions. And I believe your bill tracker also has that option too, to also be able to make purchase orders through here. Let's see. Yes, you can. Purchase orders through the bill tracker. Okay, so good. Home page. Purchase orders. Okay, we got vendors, menu bar, create purchase order, and then we have vendor center. You can either new transactions. Okay, I'm gonna go like this, so you know that you need to be in the vendor center. Or actually, you know what? I can do this way as well. Vendor center, new transactions. Then you go to your purchase orders. You can right click. Or you can also and then lastly, you have the bill tracker. Okay, good. All right, how to record the transaction in the purchase orders. It's pretty straightforward. It's you just fill in the information of your vendor, etc., etc., etc. Okay, and now question number, this one is how and why to record a vendor credit. How do you record a vendor credit? We talked about this.
Credit memo.
Say it again.
Credit memo.
Write a memo. How do we write a memo?
I forgot.
We are going to go to the home page. All right, home page. That's the vendor center. There you go. Okay, I'll give you a hint. It is definitely on the home page. But it's not it's not straightforward. Meaning it's not going to say enter vendor credit. No, it's definitely on the home page, but there's a step you need to take.
Enter bill.
Enter bills. Good. And at the very top, you have the credit right here. So make sure you select that and you're going to enter the credit. Now, when do you use a credit? Why would you get a vendor credit? It's pretty straightforward. What happened?
There's a difference in the price.
Overpaid.
Different item.
Okay, good. Overpaid. Okay, difference in prices. Okay, I'll accept that.
They decided not to purchase.
We cancel. Good. Cancellation. What else? I'll give you the biggest hint. Returns.
Return item.
Yes, if you return items,
Yeah.
then yes, you get a vendor credit. Also, too, last one. What can vendors give you in when they give you when they give you a bill? They can give you a discount. Good. Okay. All right, and then go to chapter 2 because I'm gonna I show you how to apply the vendor credit when you're on your bill when you make your bill payment. All right. So lastly, I think there's 3 more questions. Yeah. So the next one is how to complete the inventory workflow from purchase orders to payment. So remember, there's 2 ways. So 2 ways. So this is talking about general terms, not actually processing it. So first way is obviously we're going to start off with our purchase order.
Paid
Okay.
items.
So we start off both ways with our purchase orders. Okay? So the first way, what happens after the purchase order?
Receive inventory.
Yes, we received our items. Now, there's 2 options when you receive our items. And what are the options?
Receive the bill and receive without bill.
Good. Now, what happens when we receive without the bill? What form do what form do you get when you receive an item? Not an invoice.
Again, please. What is the question?
The question is when you receive your items without a bill, what form are you filling out? What form do you actually get? There's a specific name for this form.
A package list.
Not that's what it is, but when you enter it into QuickBooks, what is that form called? There's a specific name for it.
Receive inventory without bill. Receive item.
Or the invoice.
Not an invoice, that's only for customers.
Item receipt.
Item receipt, that is correct. So once you enter it without a bill, you're going to receive an item receipt. Okay? Now, what comes after receiving the item receipt? So again, I'll give you a little fresher up. So if you go ahead and click here and you say, I received the bill, I received the items without a bill, item receipt. Okay. So what do you do when you have item receipts? What's the next step after the item receipt? Okay, I'll give you a hint. Look at the flow of the on the home page.
Enter bill.
Not enter bills. What comes right after and receiving items?
It becomes a bill?
How do you make it become a bill?
Right click, receive inventory.
Say that again, Nilo.
Just re- there's a drop down arrow and click on that one and
Uh,
receive inventory.
okay, so after we receive inventory, what comes right after? Look at the flow. What's right after it?
Enter bills.
Enter again. And make sure you're specific. Enter bills against inventory. So once you get here, you're gonna select your items receipt, and what's gonna happen is going to convert your item receipt into a bill. Okay, so make sure that you know that one. That's very important that you do that because oftentimes you will get packaging slips. And what are you going to do? You obviously didn't get the bill with it, so you're going to enter it in. And once you receive the items, you're going to be without a bill. You're going to create an item receipt, and after that is going to be entering bill against inventory. And that process is going to convert item receipts into bills. Okay. What happens if you just go ahead and actually receive the items and you receive the bill? What happens?
Pay the bills.
Yep, it just becomes a bill. Good. Okay. So now the next question is, how do you actually pay the bill? How do you pay the bill? Now I'm actually looking for locations to enter your payment.
Homepage, pay bills.
Homepage, pay bills. Where else can you pay a bill? Where you say?
Menu bar, vendor.
Menu bar, vendor. Yes, you could pay your bills there too. Good.
Icon bar.
Icon
vendors.
bar, vendors bar. It takes you to the vendor center. Okay. Now, once you're in the vendor center, how do you pay your bills here?
Right mouse click.
Right click. Good. You can pay your bill here. Yes, you can. Manage transactions. Pay bills. Or bill payment in this case. You can also go to your new transactions, pay bills. Two more. Nothing, no, nothing on your chart of accounts. You cannot enter a payment for a bill using the chart of accounts. No. You have to use the pay bill option. Okay. You go to bill tracker. You can definitely go to manage transactions and pay your bills here too. Pay bill. Okay. You could use a credit card, you could use this, or you could just enter in the bill. Now, if I were to click here, what option do I have at the very top of my window?
Pay bills.
Pay bills. Yes. Okay. So again, I believe if you're in your actual bill tracker, you can right click them and actually pay. Okay. So, okay. Okay. So again, that was a lot of options to go in there. So let's review. Home page. Pay bills. Okay. Menu, vendor. Okay. Okay, vendor center, you can new transactions. Manage transactions. You're gonna get a bill payment. And you can also right click, and I believe that you have the pay bill option. You have income tracker. I'm sorry, shoot. Bill tracker. Right click, pay. And then the last option is on bill form. Top of the window, pay bill. Okay, so good. Let's see if we're good on time. Okay, good. So 2 more questions is how to set and collect and pay sales tax. And then lastly, the bank reconciliation. So how do you set up and collect your and pay your sales tax?
So when you say set up sale tax, we talk about edit and preferences.
Good, good, excellent. So good, you're gonna go to edit preferences. So edit window, preference, I hit the wrong one. You're gonna go edit preferences. Okay, you're gonna go click sales tax. So let me find my sales tax. Go to my company, and of course, right here, this is how you set it up. Set up your payments, set out how often, which accounts, and what taxes you charge. Good. This is also how you set up how to pay it too. You can either pay it monthly, quarterly, or annually. Okay. Now, how do you actually pay it?
We go by vendors.
You could go to the vendors.
Vendors pay sale taxes.
You
and
could
we
do that.
can go chart account homepage. Right?
Okay, let me see. Go to chart of accounts. Oh, and hit the wrong one. Chart of accounts. And you have to know the specific person that you're paying. Sales tax. So I would say no to this one.
No.
So, but you do have this little option right here. Um, where did you see that?
Yeah, it says a vendor manage sales tax. Here, before the chart of accounts.
Before chart of accounts. Okay, right here, yes. Manage sales, yes. This is where you're going to utilize this window to actually make a payment to your sales tax person. Yes, so here you just where you schedule it, and yeah, and you just write a check to them. So this one is pretty straightforward. Again, if you have sales tax, which you should, especially if you're having a location at a specific state and city, so you may have to. IRS will take care of this primarily for you, so you don't have to worry too much about it. So you know exactly who you're paying and when to pay. So again, IRS should take care of you when it comes to setting up your to pay the sales tax. Okay, so again, set up. And then how to pay them is going to be the manage sales tax on homepage. Okay. All right, last but not least, the bank reconciliation. What do we know about this? I'm going to tell you that this is all chapter 5. Okay. Read that because it's pretty straightforward. When you reconcile your bank, you just need a statement and you're just going to compare all the outstanding checks, all the deposits that haven't cleared out. You're going to also look at how much interest you may have collected using the EFT function, and you're also going to look at what service charges that the bank has charged you for those extra things. So again, pretty straightforward. This is a whole entire chapter 5 was about the bank reconciliation. So I'm actually not going to go over it. It is definitely something you should read. It's a chapter 5 thing. Okay. And the last, let me see if we have any other questions. So we have that one and that one. Okay, so let's just go through it one at a time. So the next section is going to be the payroll section. So, payroll. All right, first thing is a student should know that the difference between the payroll services available for QuickBooks. So, do you guys remember what were the 3 options that they gave you?
Basic, enhanced, and full service.
Yes, basic, enhanced, and full service. Good. Knowing the difference between them, it's pretty straightforward. Just study this part when you, I hit enter time. When you have the option to go ahead and you can also do this by going to employees. I think you need to have the payroll turned on. Turn on payroll in QuickBooks, payroll services. Okay, so look at these options for the payroll services. Okay, I have no idea what's going on. Okay, let me go ahead and do this again. We're going to activate payroll. All right, enter payroll service key, install payroll. You should be able to have this option. So when you click turn on payroll, you should get this window and it gives you the options of what payroll services that you can use for QuickBooks. So this is where the question asks like, what are the difference between them? Go ahead, take a look at this and you can tell me what the differences are. Okay, so, okay. Next question is how to set up payroll, including employees, federal and state taxes, and what does that say? Basic payroll deductions, etc., using the payroll setup. So do you remember when we set this up? Okay, so the little thing behind it is how to set up an employee's earnings and etc., etc. So there's a whole, so chapter 10 was the entire step process. Now, as you remember, if you go to chapter 10, it's that one page that has the 10 steps to set up your payroll. So I'm going to put it right here, 10 steps to set up payroll. Okay? And we actually walked through this, right? We went from looking at the different types of the different types of compensation. So there are 4 sections that you have to complete when it comes to doing the payroll setup. All right. So let me go ahead and I'm going to enter it here. So remember when we set up our payroll, we had to do 4, there are 4 categories. Okay. We need to do, the first one was setting up the company compensations. Okay, so that dealt with how you pay your employees. Okay, and then that also involved with, let me see, that involved with any deductions. So any things that you offer that come right off the paycheck. Okay, then the next section there too is any additional things like fringe benefits, sick pay. Okay. And then after that, then the next section there was to set up your employee. Right? This one dealt with entering in information from W-4 form. Right? Entering in their withholds, entering in all that information, contact, okay, obviously Social Security, and birth date. Also setting up how often you pay them, right? Your payment period, okay? Things like that, right? Then the next one that we had to do was we had to set up our taxes, okay? So dealing with the federal income tax withholdings, as well as state taxes. So depending on where you're at, all right? And when we set them up, you're setting up who the agency that governs it and who you're making payments to. So depending on which one does for what, will give you exact things. And then lastly, it is to set year to date information. So if you are a pre-existing company and you are moving into QuickBooks, this is where you enter in all your employees' information of all the taxes up to year to date. Okay, so that is it. Okay, so remember there are 4 sections that you have to do. Setting up the compensations, your employees, your taxes, and then lastly, your year to date stuff. Okay. So how to set up employees' earnings and sick vacation pay. That is all going to be under the employees. Okay? How to set them up, pretty straightforward. You select what options they get, what do they receive, and how many hours specifically for sick pay and vacation pay, etc., if you allow them to. Okay? How to track sick or vacation time. So this is where we're going to be looking at using the enter time. Okay, do you guys remember using the enter time? Okay, and this is going to be along the lines of when we actually either use enter the time or when we actually look at paying them. You know, the pay employee tab, and you can modify. Okay, So when we get to that pay the employees option, we have that little window where we can tap on their name and it's going to list out what their total check is supposed to be. That's where you can go in and modify their hours. Okay. How and why set up payroll schedules? Okay. Why do you need to set up a payroll schedule? We talked about this. Why do we use the payroll schedule? It's a pretty straightforward.
When to issue the check, when to pay them.
Yes, to pay your employees. Okay? Also, to pay your liabilities. You use the payroll scheduler, especially if your employees, like again, most common that you'll see is that you'll have a salary based per employee and you'll have a wage based employee. You can't put them on the same schedule, or you can have your wage employees be paid every 2 weeks while your salary are paid on the 15th and the 30th. Okay, so yes, pretty straightforward to pay your employees and to also pay your liabilities. Okay. Couple questions here is how to pay, how to run payroll. Pretty straightforward, right? You use the payroll center, right? You have options to either pay your employees or you have to pay your liabilities. Okay, and if you guys remember, for the pay employees, it's pretty straightforward. You just click view/payment and you fill out everything and you click OK and write a check. Same thing with the pay liabilities. You view/pay option. You view to make sure that those amounts are correct. You click OK and you pay. Very, very easy, very straightforward. Again, this was last week on Wednesday and Thursday. Well, primarily Thursday when we made payments to the people. Okay. How and why do we pay liabilities? So let's talk about the why, the how. How do you pay your payroll liabilities? How do you pay your payroll liabilities?
That's related to taxes.
That's right, related to taxes. Well, why do you need to pay them? Well, first, how do you pay them?
Don't you have to set up vendor accounts for them?
Yes, you do need to set up vendor accounts with them, but what else? What else can you also do with that? Okay, so once you've already set the vendor account to them, how do you actually physically pay them?
Don't you write checks with them quarterly?
Either monthly, quarterly, semi.
Good, but my question is that it's part of the navigation question. Like, how do I physically do that? How do I do that in QuickBooks? I mean, I think, but
Don't you do write checks?
you cannot pay a liability using write-a checks.
You going homepage, pay liabilities.
You can go to the home page and pay liabilities. Where is that section under? My computer is not working. I think QuickBooks crashed on me. So I cannot display that window for you. But yes, that is one way that you can pay the liabilities is going on the home page under employees section. You have the pay liabilities, but that's only if you have the payroll center. I mean the payroll services on. So pay liabilities. All right.
Employee. Pay employees.
No, you cannot pay your liabilities through pay employees option.
Pay liabilities.
Pay liabilities, yes, but where? How do you get there?
Employee. Menu bar. Homepage.
Homepage what?
Homepage. Employee.
Homepage employee center. Okay, now we're in the employee center. Where else do you need to go? There's one more step before that. Okay, where else do you need to go? There's one more place that you need to go.
The payroll center.
Payroll center. Good. So you need to find whatever means to get to the payroll center. And then you have the option to pay your liabilities. Good. Okay. Obviously, the why is because you have responsibilities to pay the government for having employees. So you need to make those payments for those reasons, is because you technically owe the government money. And you need to make payments or else it becomes a hefty fine. So why do you need to make payments? Because you owe them money. Okay. How to prepare payroll forms. Okay, forms W-941, W-2 in QuickBooks. So, you have the little option to file forms in your payroll center. Okay, the 941 is obviously going to be making the payments to your federal agency. So whether you're paying the federal either way, whether you're paying FICA, which is your Social Security, or Medicare, or whether you're paying the federal tax income, you want to make sure that you file your 941. And then W-2 forms, depending on who the person is, if you're the employer, your job to do with the W-2 forms is to submit that to your agency to let you know which employees you have and how are you taxing them. And then W-2 forms for your employees is going to be your employer is going to give you all of the taxes that they filed, they're supposed to file for you, and how much they paid into whatever taxes that are meant to be paid for. So that's where the year to end dates matter when it comes to those forms. But you do have the section in your payroll center to be able to file your forms. Okay. All right, tracking time and using it for payroll or for inventory customers or invoicing customers. So again, this is chapter 9 when we talked about entering time. So again, you can use entering time, right? Enter time to keep track of your employees, right? If they're an hourly wage, you can use them as a timesheet. Okay. You can also use it as a personal measurement of a project. So, for example, if you have a project and you're the owner, right? You can measure the length in hours. You input into project. Okay? And this is also where we looked at billable time. You guys remember when you can tack on and have someone pay for the expense for you? So billable time. So we had our independent contractors, right? Our 1099s, and also our employee, Mike Mizowski, say that I worked for a job for this specific person. So billable time is linking your payments, or in this case, it's an income, to a specific expense slash job. Okay. So again, this is going to be definitely chapter 9. I guess, like I said, it's not as super important unless you are planning to use this. But one thing that you need to know is when you use the enter time window, you can use it for both payroll or for other expenses. Okay. So I think we have 2 more sections. Yeah, 2 more things to cover, and then I 3 more things to cover, and then we'll call a break and then come back and do the practice exam. Okay, so first one says how and why to set a closing date. We just talked about that yesterday. Why do we need to set a closing date? Let's first talk about the how. How do you even set the closing date? And I can't even show it to you on QuickBooks. It crashed on me. So how do I set the closing date? There's 2 ways. Well, 3 if you count I'll give you the first one, the easy step interview. Okay. What are the other 2 ways that you can set the closing date? Okay. I'll give you another hint. If you can set it up through the easy step interview, how do you modify the easy step interview?
Edit.
Edit what?
Preferences.
Yes, edit, menu bar, preferences.
Go to accounting preferences.
Say it again?
Edit preferences and then accounting.
Yes, you're going to go to accounting. And then there you go. At the bottom, you can close the setting date there. Good. Okay. And then lastly, what's the last way you can enter in the closing date? So I'll give you another hint. It's definitely on the menu bar. Say that again. Company, good. Company, menu bar. Once you've done that, you'll have an option to set closing date. Okay. Now, why do you need to set a closing date? Why do you need to set a closing date?
So you can zero out your accounts?
Zero out your accounts is part of the closing process. What happens when you actually set a closing date?
Edit or to fix
Prevent
transactions.
somebody from
Not to edit, not to add. No,
To fix transactions due to error entry.
that's not that. That's the adjustments.
to provide changing transaction.
Not to provide changing transactions. What's so important about closing up your books, especially in QuickBooks?
To make sure debit credit are zeroed out or equal.
No, that's the closing. That's the close. That's the adjustments that you need to make. My question is, what is so important about closing the books?
For start new,
I believe they have custom data for financial.
Not the financial statements as part of the closing process. What was that, Irina?
yeah, for start new circle, we need have the closing date.
Right, but what's so significant or so important? What does the closing date do?
Is that for backing up the files?
That's the step before that, but what does it specifically do?
To verify the accuracy.
No. Okay. It's to lock up your data file. It locks up all transactions so no one can edit them. That's very important. And it pretty much saves the file for you. So it locks up all transactions and sets a password. Okay. Yes, because the most important thing about closing your or setting the closing date is to lock up your files, because one thing that you don't want to do is you don't want to have your users have access to this stuff and start messing with all of your incomes and all of your revenue, all of your expenses. Like, you don't want someone to mess with this information, especially if you've completed the financial statements. You don't want to go back to your file and all of a sudden someone messed with the file and someone entered in fraudulent charges. So that is the number one thing that you want to know is the closing date, and what it actively does is it locks up the transaction so that no one can have access to it. Okay, only the admin. So that's also the important thing is important is to prevent fraudulent charges, and over slash understating say that again, Lynette.
Only the authorized can have an access to it.
Yes, only admin can have access to it, and if you need to give permission to your user, then you may have to do that. Okay. How to enter a journal entry if asked to do so by an accountant. There are a total of 3 ways you can enter a journal transaction. So how do you do that?
Create a general journal entry, and then in order to address expenses account.
How do I get there? How do I get to that window?
Menu bar company.
Company menu bar, good.
Make general journal entry.
Yes, and make general journal entry. How else can I do it? So this is also coming back to when you make a general journal entry. What's the first thing that you're supposed to list out on there? Before you actually do your debits and credits. There's a special account that you have access to.
You have to set up an account that says journal entry.
Correct. So in order to access that account, you can either go to the chart of accounts and then double click on journal entries. All right. And you would just enter them either as a using the register, or once you've completed it, you can always double click on it and the window pops up. You can also utilize the check register on the home page, icon on home page, and what do you call it? Drop the drop down menu. And click on journal entries, and then you can enter in the transaction that way. Okay. Question to you guys, this is off topic, but what is so important about making journal entries in your in QuickBooks?
Make sure everything is balanced with the entries and as I said, debit credit for zero.
You could do that. What do you call those?
Zero something.
Zero check. Zero, they're called $0 checks, sorry.
$0 check.
Okay, and what's so significant about $0 checks? What is that pertaining? Okay. Yes, to recategorize transactions. Okay, so again, to recategorize transactions. So $0 checks are for items only. No, items. Sorry, items and accounts. Okay. What else? What's so important of using a journal entry? Okay.
So it's not too cluttered with the bank. Even on my bank. Something.
You're close. That's a bank reconciliation.
Bank reconciliation, okay.
What happens in the beginning is one of them, and what happens in the very end.
Just like I said, bank reconciliation. You have to make adjustment.
A what list?
You make journal entries for month-end adjustment.
Adjustments, yes. So at the end of the period adjustments, a period or year adjustments, yes. So that can include depreciation for the month or for the year, prepaid expenses, making sure that you have your other transactions, such as like maybe you have a bad debt that you need to adjust. You need to adjust for recategorizing your items or your accounts, other things and that. So yes, to make adjustments for either at the end of the period or year adjustments. So that includes depreciation, right? Expenses, prepaid expenses. Okay, etc. All right, and I'll give you this one. You typically, so this is something that we learned in chapter number 12. You use a journal entry to create open balances in certain accounts. Okay, so make sure you know that. Okay, when setting up your company file. Okay, so that's definitely something you need to review again. Last but not least, this question says how and why to memorize transactions. Okay. We literally learned this yesterday too. What's so important to memorize transactions?
In order to check for the invoices, sales report, bill, something like that.
Yes, those are the things that you can memorize.
Okay.
Now, why is how and okay, so okay, first let's do how. So how do you memorize a report or how do you memorize transactions?
You going menu bar list,
Good.
memorize transaction list, right?
Menu bar, I believe that is on list, yes. So lists on the menu bar and memorize transactions. Now that's just to see what you've memorized. That's how to see it. Okay, that's not really too much on how. So I'll go ahead and give you this one because it is a tricky one. But at the top of most forms, you have the memorize.
When you go into home page, enter bill, you talk about that. You have
Yes,
memorized it.
yes. So I can't show it to you because my QuickBooks crashed. But yes, when you go to a bill at the very top, you have the option to memorize. Yes. So on most sales forms or most forms that you have in QuickBooks, you can memorize. And then the only options that you can't memorize are just your checks, your bill payments, and your receipt payments. Okay. So on any form that you have that you can create, you have that memorize transaction at that button, or you can also edit on the menu bar and memorize transaction. Okay, so that's how. So at the top of every single form, you should have the option to memorize it. Okay, why? Why is it so important to memorize transactions? What's the purpose of it? Saves time. Good. I'm going to put that in caps. Saves time. Yes. Yes. Why? It allows you to make it much more quicker for you to enter in a transaction if it's a transaction that you always enter in, such as a rent payment. It will save you so much time because you just enter the person and you just click enter the bill and boom, all the information's there. All you have to do is just set the date. Okay. All right. So good job, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and save this. And right now it is 2:15/16. I'll go ahead and take a quick 15-minute break and be back by 10:30. And we will go ahead and do our practice test. All right? So thank you guys.